I am Tim Herndon. I'm a member of the Shelby County Groundwater Quality Control Board. I am the representative appointed by the city of Bartlett. And my friends around this table decided that they wanted me to serve as chair. I will get even one day. But at their demand, I have agreed to do so. Basically, this is how it will come. We will start here in a minute. We'll start here in a minute. Basically, how it'll work, we'll pretty much go, for the most part, by the agenda that you see projected on the wall. That's the order we'll go, and then we will ask the appellant to go down to the far end of the table. And I guess that's so you're the last person to see what's projected on the wall. But to come in and speak, explain to us your appeal, what's going on, provide what we need to hear as, for lack of a better term, evidence. And we will conclude that, and then we will go to the next appeal. We will hear that, and then for lack of a better way to say it, the board will go into executive session. You're welcome to sit here. I strongly encourage you to sit here. When we enter the executive section area, your input is complete. However, and I share this with you for this reason, should the board or staff desire to reach out to you and ask information or clarification, then you're here and you can do that. And then we will hear and make a decision on that through the two appeals. We may have other business which will come before, and then we will adjourn. Our attorney is not here yet today. Should you be dissatisfied with the outcome of the appeal, you absolutely have the right to appeal our decision to Chancery Court. And I could be wrong. I don't have my attorney to answer this. Something in my head says it's 30 days, but I don't know that that's the case. 90 days. You have 90 days to appeal that decision. So that's generally how it goes. And that's how we're going to move through this today. In addition, up here behind me, for some knickknacks and beverages, please feel free to have some. We got, I'm a little bit different. You know, most of the time you get stuff from, you know, a plastic clamshell from Sam's, Walmart, or Kroger or something. I don't work that way. We have something from each grand division of the state of Tennessee. We've got moon pies from Chattanooga. We've got Gouda clusters from Nashville. And today we have popcorn by Bartlett's own Brim Snack Foods. So please, and there's colas and coffee and water and such. Restrooms are located at the door you entered in if you wish. If we take a break or something and that's backed up, there are restrooms just on the other side of that wall. And so please fasten your seat belts. The exits are out the door and to the front. And with that, I'm going to welcome all of you and call this meeting to order. Mr. Parker, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Tim Herndon.
Here.
Nancy Brown.
Here.
Quentin Clark. Quentin Clark. Karen Ellis.
Here.
Alicia Household. Chris Max.
Here.
David McRae.
Here.
Let's see here. Richard Mills.
Here.
Christopher Mordau.
Present.
Terry Perkins.
Here.
Mike Sorensen. Here. With that, Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, point of order before we move into approval of August 22nd minutes.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Bob Rogers, manager of pollution control. At our last meeting, we had one appeal. It was the 6165 Old Tipton Road. And the board directed us to, or we asked the appellant to bring some information to staff. And there were 3 questions that the board wanted answered. It's not clear to us if all 3 have to be answered perfectly. I will say several members of our staff went over. We believe 2 of them are done well. And I'm going to read those items. They're in the minutes. The reason I'm bringing this up is maybe this can be clarified in the minutes today to us. The first one that is written in the minutes is MLG&W does not have a wrong one. Need a written statement from USDA or an accredited body that the use of the MLG&W water will be detrimental to the product. 2 is submit 3 cost estimates for a proposed dechlorinization system at the site. 3 is have a certified report that chlorine and fluoride in MLG&W water will be detrimental to growing the hemp product. Item 1, a written statement from USDA or some other type government body was not submitted to us, but in item 2, they did submit cost estimates of filtration equipment, which are relatively expensive. We talked about that if need be. And number 3, they do have a certified report from what appears to be an expert in the field that the chlorinated and fluoridated water is detrimental to growing the hemp. Our feeling is that that is probably good enough. This does not say this and this and this, or 2 out of 3. Staff's recommendation is we would like to be able to accept this to issue permit for that site, but that's really on advice. That was recommended to bring this back to the board. And if you would, I would like some clarification on this item.
Anyone, any member of the board care to make comment?
What was the first one again? The USDA?
It's on the
Yes.
second page of the minutes.
It's on the second page of the minutes.
One of those, I think the way it's written, 1 and 3 seem to be the same, but really, I think the third one was supposed to be, I think they presented that they couldn't present their product as organic or something like that if they used MLG&W water. So either 1 or 3, probably 3, was supposed to be that kind of clarification or statement from an agency.
And once again, that's kind of what staff feels like with the materials that they've submitted, but just the fact that there isn't anything from USDA, we felt like, sorry to bring this back again, but a little direction from the board. And if that can be clarified here in the minutes, because it wasn't so much the way it's recorded here, we can move forward with doing what we do.
Well, let me ask I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
a clarifying question. So what they presented, what is the detrimental effect to the product?
Yeah, it's a relatively detailed explanation of just what chlorine and fluoride does to a growing environment.
And so in it, it specifically says that the MLG&W water would have that detrimental impact? I think
Yes.
that was the issue.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, this expert, laboratory owner, MLG&W tap water could prove detrimental to your industrial hemp crop.
It was could, not shall. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Our staff is asking us for help.
I would like to say that this is Christopher Morkel, representing the city of Memphis, that we have not required those same requirements on the previous request to that detail.
That's true, but the evidence that they presented, I mean, we're a deliberative body. This board is a deliberative body, and when an appellant comes up before us and presents evidence before the board, we certainly have to take that into consideration. And my memory is they kept stating what it was going to hurt them. My memory, and this may not be the case, was that they couldn't make it organic. They couldn't sell it under that banner. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that the hemp crop, the USDA had a certification board for agricultural products as organic, but I was mistaken. They do have such a program, I'll just call it that. And I do remember that was presented several times. And we certainly, as a board, have the ability to, you say it's organic, demonstrate to us that it is. And we certainly, as a board, have that right. I don't think you can treat every application that comes before this board identically. I do believe if the rules were modified, it might ease things up, but that is up to you. I don't think we can, depending upon what's stated in that row of chairs down there, I think the board is within their purview to make requirements based on it. Now, if we wish to make changes, I would think we could make those amendments to the minutes and move forward. If my attorney doesn't object to that.
I came in late, I apologize, but I assume what staff presented was, did the board require the applicants to meet one of the requirements or all three? And that's where the confusion came in. So if we can clarify that, I don't think we need to alter the minutes because I don't think it was clear in the last meeting.
But we can certainly
clear it up now.
Clear it up
Yes,
now
please.
and record it in the minutes here as well as next time.
Yeah, someone could also make a motion to amend.
No, we're in discussion at this
Later on.
point.
That would be the other alternative.
We're more of the Robert's Rules newly revised. We're having a discussion before a motion is made. We are just about, a point of order was brought up about this. We aren't yet to the approval of minutes.
Very good.
Chris Max with City of Millington. One thing, it appears that the first and third requirements is, like you said, it's a bit of redundancy. And what is the difference in this, because I admittedly was not here the last meeting. What is the difference between this guy growing hemp and the guy next to him putting a well in for his corn crops?
In this case, in my mind, any agricultural product.
What I'm asking is, what's the difference between the guy in a corn crop that's just growing corn like everybody else is, as opposed to whether or not this guy's gonna be, organic or not? As far as the approval.
Again, this is the evidence that they presented.
Yeah. They brought it up, so you're
They
saying we
brought
have
it
to
up.
consider it?
Well,
Because they brought
the
it up.
board certainly may.
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't introduce myself, Karen Ellis, City of Memphis also. So I think the basis, at least part of the basis of their appeal was, they had MLW water available to them, but it would disqualify them from selling their product as organic. And of course, in the spirit of wanting to support small and large businesses, the board said, okay, we asked a series of questions around why that would be and what information did you bring that said MLG&W would be detrimental to you being qualified as organic, to detrimental just to this hemp product specifically, and they didn't have any. So number one, I think, was supposed to say whatever accredited body that allows you to be called organic, bring some evidence from them that says using MLG&W water would disqualify you from being called or selling your product as organic. And then 3 was supposed to be specifically MLG&W water contains X amount of fluorine or chlorine, and so it has exceeded the threshold that would be safe for them or allow them to sell their product as organic and sell the or grow the product however you nurture hemp product. So it wouldn't be detrimental at all. Those were the 2. So it's not correctly stated here in the minutes. The first one was supposed to be about disqualification as an organic product for sale. And the third one really said, have a certified report that chlorine or fluorine in MLG&W water, I think that's supposed to be will be detrimental. Not could be, maybe, it was will be. So, one singular opinion is I'm not sure they met. Even if we wanted to put 1 and 3 together, I'm not exactly sure they met that. Because may, could.
Was this, Mike Sorensen, City Chairman, was this letter, did it come from a certified lab, or where did it come from?
We've got several things. One letter that actually says it'll ruin this crop. There's nothing backing it up, so we kind of going, I don't have enough information on that. The one, and the letter is pretty short, but there's a lot of background information. This is from a fellow who he's the owner, founder of a laboratory. He's got his certifications and everything involved in it. He's got copies of MLG&W water reports that he used to rely on this letter. So that one, we feel like, there's an expert here. It's proven to be an expert. Like I said, I do have another letter here, but there's no background information of who this is from. This guy makes a statement, I'm convinced that MLG&W water, I'll quote, will be certain death to his plants and even his business. That sounds a little over the top, and there's no further background information of his credentials. But the other one does seem to have fairly strong credentials. Yes, FAST is the good one.
This is Larry Smith, Assistant Manager. Let me go ahead and read. This is from FAST Laboratories of Research. Kyle W. Felling, PhD, Owner Laboratory Director. Bob read the first paragraph, the last one. Fluoride is apparently the biggest problem. Fluoride is a hazardous waste product that is present in municipal wastewater systems. This is a toxic substance to include in hemp products. 38 enzymes, plants are affected by fluoride as a seed germination. Enzyme additives are not able to blah, blah, blah. Irrigation, several.
I'm sorry, did you say it's present in municipal wastewater systems?
No, fluoride is a hazardous waste product that is present in all municipal water sources.
Water sources.
This is a toxic substance to industrial hemp. And that's where this guy ends, Dr. Felling ends that letter.
I think to your point, we're evolving in how we're thinking about this. So I would ask staff, are you, independent of the guidance that we ultimately give you, are you convinced that this documentation is valid and makes the point that it will be detrimental to this product that they're trying to grow?
Can I expand that real quick? That's a decision for the board to make. That's whether or not to admit evidence, not for staff.
Okay, I
Sorry.
thought we gave this back to staff.
Yes,
Because it
and-
wasn't even supposed to come back to the board.
Would you like to see copies of the letters?
No, I don't. I just want to ask
Okay.
them
So
for their opinion. But
when you approve something that's pending upon, like usually with landmarks or something like that, it's dependent upon the applicant getting a building permit, something that's black or white that doesn't require any interpretation from staff. If you approve something pending on something, you can't delegate staff your adjudicatory powers. So you can't make them make decisions for you. So if you're calling on them to make a judgment call as to whether to admit evidence, when there's no standard for building permit, it's standard for what evidence to admit, that's kind of calling them to do something the board's supposed to do, and that could be an issue if it were to ever go to appeals.
Well, I'm confused because this wasn't even supposed to come back to the board. We gave them the authority to make the decision, but our instructions weren't artfully written, I guess, or clear to them, so they came back. But I thought we were done with the matter.
Staff is asking, you weren't here, staff is asking for guidance.
For clarification on what the board actually meant. Did the board need one of those items to be met, or did the board need all three of them to be met? Because I reviewed the tape recordings, I can't tell what the board wanted, staff couldn't tell what the board wanted, and that's why we wanted clarification as to whether the board wanted them to meet all three of these items or just one of them. I will say from a legal standpoint, meeting just one of these is sufficient for the board to make a decision, I would think, within a legal aspect. So, that being said, that's what the board needed, and that's what I'm sorry, not the board, the staff needed, and that's what I pointed out to them. Because when this evidence came in, there weren't any clear guidelines as to how the staff is supposed to deal with this. Cannot delegate your decision-making powers to the staff.
I was just asking for clarification from them on the evidence that they read, but okay, I
But no,
understand.
that's why it's coming back, sorry.
So what the staff would need is a 1, 2, and 3 being a checklist. If any one of those come back as a negative, I suppose you say, as if it's negative to the crop, then we should say approve it, because the well water is what they need to water the crop. That way there's no interpretation. It's either it is detrimental or it's not. Yes or no.
And that's what was
Black
out there.
or white.
Well, as far as the three conditions that that were moved and made by this board, I humbly are of the opinion it was not pick one. Now, if the board is wrong, if that assumption of mine is wrong, if my board disagrees with me, fine. I was saying 1, 2, and 3 inclusive. That is the motion that was placed before this board, and that's what was approved. Does anyone have an opinion different than that? Okay, that said, the question now is the staff is seeking guidance do we wish to amend this before we approve those minutes? Pretty close? Pretty close?
Yes.
And with that, I will humbly give this board 60 seconds to make up its mind to put in a motion, or we will close and move to minute approval.
I move that number 1 be correctly stated as need a written statement from USDA or an appropriate body that the use of MLGNW water would disqualify it as an organic product. So I believe that was the discussion.
Well, it would be an accredited body by the USDA, I believe the agencies are accredited by the USDA, and those are the agencies that qualify the organic product.
Okay.
And so that is, you're moving to amend that. I'm going to take it as that's a motion to amend that sentence, correct?
Correct.
Staff may want to
All right.
recognize that you give a little background information. I contacted U.S. Department of Agriculture, their National Organic Program, NOPE program, and talked to 6 or 8 of their certifiers, and as well as two folks in Washington D.C. So they do have a program for certification, and they all were very getting back to me with an email. I asked the question. What I asked them was, did utility water in any way have any effect on their organic certification versus well water? And the USDA there's nothing in the USDA regulations that prohibit that. There's nothing whatsoever. That's a uniform answer from every all. There's no difference. That doesn't come up in the regulations that cover the National Organic Program certification.
Hang on a second before we go into that. Let's add that into discussion. Is there a second on this motion?
I'll say.
Motion has been made and seconded. Would you please continue with discussion?
That being said, one or two of the folks, Tulip, Wisconsin, and someone else, did mention on their own, they said they're having things in the water that are often there in utility water, like fluoride, like chlorine, is not necessarily desired for certain plants, but that's about as far as anyone went out of the 9 responses I got back. So again, if you're going to tie this to a USDA thing, well water versus utility water, it's not going to exist.
Well, I think what our understanding was is that what we needed was a certification from USDA that their crop, am I close, friend? That their crop would either A, meet that requirement, or that their crop, if that was used, would be if domestic water was used.
From whoever certifies?
Whoever it is would not.
Yeah.
Those are I think that is what I understood the board would do.
I mean, that's the distinction I think needs to be made to be fair to these folks, because USDA is not going to do that because that's not in the regulation.
They don't, I understand.
But someone probably does certify organic hemp. I've got to go find out. I'm sure these guys are going to know, but that makes sense.
And again, the board, at least I don't recall in that discussion, the board wasn't raising it as an issue, the appellate did.
Correct. I'm serious.
That was based on their assertion that they could not be organic based on the water supply.
Okay, so for clarification, because I'm going to ask somebody, a dear friend of mine, to help get the minutes correct so that she's satisfied. Do you want to say what you understand it to be? Or do you want Mr. Parker to say what he understands the motion to be before I call a vote?
Whoever's writing it down, I guess.
I'm asking you to help in this.
It would be they would need a written statement from a USDA accredited body stating that the product cannot be certified as organic if it uses MLG certified.
That pretty much, that's what we got? Okay, that's the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Show the motion has passed. We will amend the minutes to say that. Any other discussion to clarify if apparently there is a question in staff's mind as to is it 1, 2, and 3, 1 or 2? Pick what you want. Never mind. Is there any motion coming from the board to assist staff in understanding what it is you want?
Well, it seems like to me if we've got certifying reports from a laboratory that says that it won't grow, the hemp won't grow with the MLG&W water, then why do we care if it's organic or not? They're not going to have a product to certify. I think why do we?
So and are we trying to help, are we trying to cut out people from being farmers or farming in Shelby County? I think has been a discussion.
It certainly is an issue, and aside from what some have chosen to come say, and I can only speak for myself, and I am technically neutral in this, at least that's what this thing says. Although I have some latitude. I am personally of the opinion the reason why they don't want water with MLGW water is because they won't be they'll lose money. It costs way too much.
Viability.
And I personally don't want to see our regulations, our rules, drive any industry, crop, manner of living out of Shelby County. Now, that's my personal, I mean, the board may have a different opinion. If they do, I respect that. But I certainly don't want the next best industry, whatever it may be, to go to DeSoto County and suck water out of our aquifer there because our rules are so restrictive they can't use it here. Now that is personal. I mean, that's just my personal observation. Doesn't mean a thing. If y'all don't like it, it doesn't mean much. So I just toss that out there for your consideration.
I would say we developed these three just based on what they presented. I would say in our duties of protecting the water, 2 out of 3 of these is, if they're satisfied, I think that's sufficient for this time. I just think, you know, what we put forward was based on the basis they presented as their appeal. Looking at these now, I'm just saying, I think 2 of the 3, if they're satisfied, my singular opinion would be that's sufficient this time. We still need to evolve in our thinking about how we're setting a precedent, and each one of these is going to be fact specific, and we need to be somewhat consistent in how we weigh that evidence. But I think this small one use, 2 out of the 3 conditions met would be sufficient in my singular opinion.
Would you care to place that in the form of a motion? To amend the minutes?
Do I need to amend the minutes, or?
That's what we're doing. This is all as a result of, we haven't approved the minutes yet.
Mhm, I know.
And the minutes are before you on the screen.
So I move that we amend the minutes to direct staff to seek to have 2 of the 3 conditions presented satisfied before approving the permit.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and it's properly second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on amending the minutes, I would like to go to the bottom of the page. And I guess that's page 4, maybe, no. Page 3. And just the final sentence reads, and no further business to be conducted by the board, the motion was made to adjourn. Before that, I would like to memorialize that the board had a discussion in this room on that date about a future board meeting. And that board meeting would be September 20, is it today the 5th? September 26, 2019, at 2 p.m. at 6382 Stage Road, Bartlett, Tennessee, in the City Hall Annex Conference Room. Does anyone's memory alter different than that? So my motion, and I'm not supposed to make motions, but there are exceptions if you read this book. My motion that I'm putting before this board is to amend the minutes thusly. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Motion's made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. There, that only took half an hour. All right, that one, I think I can make go away. The next thing, Mr. Parker, would you please call the next item on the agenda? Since I messed it up last time.
Item number 4 on the agenda is an appeal of permit to replace a Class A well out of Winstead Turf Farm. It's going to pump in excess of the 250 gallons per minute as outlined in our regulations. It's a siting criteria, it's met all the siting criteria out there in section 401 and 402, and also in 11C of the regulations, 1 about the design of the well, and also 3A, there's no potable water, no public water there for the well. And I know that it had to be B and section B and C of 11 of section 11, which is we won't have any negative effects on any remediation efforts at a site within a half mile of a contaminated plume at the site, and it won't accelerate any of the known contamination going into the plume. And we received an application from Mr. Bobby Winstead on, I believe it was, and we also had an appeal letter that went out to them on July the 17th of this year. And then he wrote an appeal letter appealing the department's letter stating an automatic 30-day appeal to the Groundwater Quality Control Board for the Class A well on July the 18th of this year. And it was noted in the public, in our public news. It was published on August 27th of this year, which met the 30-day criteria for this meeting, and that was the reason that this meeting is going to be set on September the 26th. And MLGW does not have availability of public water. All of that should be in all of y'all's information package. I do have a few packets in case somebody does not have one that needs to review that. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, I believe that would be the reason for us tonight, because it's Class A well, pumping greater than 250 gallons a minute, met all the other criteria.
And the applicant has an existing well.
The applicant has an existing well.
He has been using this over the years.
Since 1994. Give you a little background that the applicant has an existing well, been in existence since 1994. It was sited right across from the old Arlington blending and packaging site. It was outside of a half a mile of the designated boundary of the Superfund site. Although at the point in time where we did this, we came into question about the construction of the well, which came back to be okay. Monitoring wells were installed out there on Highway 70. They had a pumping log that they used out there for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And in the old Memphis Environmental Center, which now is basically just Velsa, they did the environmental site assessment for Bobby and all those guys out there. Bobby and anyway, it came back and they did a model, 2 or 3 different models during the year and a half, where they would run the well supposedly for 10 days at a time, peak running 1,000 gallons a minute, no plume moved. During all the pumping rate that went out throughout the year and a half, or really 2 years, they kept the pumping log and the environmental analysis. There was no indication that any of the plume moved across the street, across Highway 70, from the old Arlington blending and packaging site, which is the TDOT site, Tennessee Department of Environment and Transportation right now. So there was no indication that any of that moved over there. So at that point in time, the well was cleared. This well is going to be further east, is that right, Bob? Further east of that, which will be even further away from the plume. So I think, with that being stated, they probably have met the criteria about the not moving the potential contaminated pollutants into the plume out there. And with that being stated,
Is the applicant present? Would you please step forward? Just for me, behind you, there's an image of a tract that I personally believe is yours. Is that correct?
It is, I don't recognize it.
Okay.
That's where I live, actually. Oh, that's Gary, that's next on the list, right?
Oh, is that next on the list?
Right.
All right, let me see if, see, I think that's his.
Yeah, that's mine.
All right, let's see if we can find, yeah, I'm gonna have to find Highway 70 somewhere. There's 70 Highway.
Almost out.
You
That's
there?
right, that's great. It zoomed
Should be
back
right
into
there.
the satellite.
Is that it? No, this is it right here.
That's your tract, right about there.
It's actually this field, and this field across.
So let's see if we can get our, pretty close?
Yes.
Okay, just for everybody here to know and see, so that if you need to describe anything or whatever, we have a graphic image there that at least the intent is, shows us where you are.
Right.
Introduce yourself, tell us your name and your address, and share with us what you can to help us understand what's going on.
Okay, my name is Bobby Winstead. My address is 11888 George R. James in Leeds, Tennessee. I'm here to talk to y'all about a replacement well that was put in 1992. It started in 1992. And it's functioned fantastic for 28 years or so, and just had a failure. So I'm here before y'all just to get a replacement well to, you know,
Do you know about how deep the well you're going to drill is?
about 300 feet.
Okay, so you're likely going down into the second aquifer.
Yes. And
If
the original one was 298, 300.
they're in basically the same thing, down into the beautiful blue sand that's down there. Any questions, board or staff?
Can you show us where the old one is, and you say you're moving further away?
The
from
old
the
one
plug?
is about right here.
Uh-huh.
The new one's gonna be right over there.
And where's Bell's old one?
I think that's
About right there.
Okay.
And that's the blend, you said the blending?
No, actually, it's not. It's over here, because this is Mary Ellen's here. So
No,
it's
I can-
Past Mary Alice, yeah, back.
Yeah, it's back.
west.
It's back. That's it right there.
Right there is what you're
No,
saying?
no, this is it right here.
It's okay, it's okay, it's all right, I promise.
Sorry.
And so we've got a plume here, and you've got a well here, and you're looking at going closer to the creek.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, that's why that picture is there, to help us all understand.
Okay.
And just to reconfirm, there's no public water?
No, no, I have to, I think you should have the letter.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yes,
There's a long letter. One sentence.
you're recognized.
Terry Perkins, Town of Arlington, as a matter of transparency and being sure there's no conflict of interest, we do business with Winstead Turf Farms as the Town of Arlington, so it may be appropriate for me to abstain from voting on
If
this.
you wish to do so, you may. You feel that is the case.
I have a question for Greg about the plume that you were talking about earlier. Is it in one of the shallower aquifer layers?
It is, it's probably about 30 or 40 feet down, I believe, Nancy, something like that. And it's like, whenever they were remediating it years ago, and probably about the middle 2008, 9, somewhere in that neighborhood, there were like 6 or 7 pounds of disease, and that was it. That was all that was there. They were remediating. And the plume, I'm not sure if they have finished remediation of that yet, but I'll find out for you guys.
What direction was that flowing, that plume, or was it moving at all?
It really wasn't moving, I don't think, Dave, on that, if I remember correctly. I do know that with the pumping rate and everything, they were worried that the plume might go towards the creek, but it has never went towards the creek even before they installed the well that was out there. And they did install 2 monitoring wells right across the street on Highway 70. Nothing, and they were sampled on, I believe, quarterly basis for 2 years, maybe 3 years. One was just recently abandoned, maybe like this past year, because nothing has shown up in it since 1994. And so, they had not, nothing included. It was pretty much on-site remediation, if I remember correctly. Gary might know a little more.
Very little. I have seen some reports on it. It's been quite some time. But yeah, I think you're correct. I think there's very little, if any, movement from that side.
For everyone here, just for your edification, these type things are managed by the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation. The board has no involvement in any of that. On occasion, if the treatment method involves injection wells, our rules prohibit injection wells, so they do come before us to share with us the plan and such, and it is normal of all the conditions that we throw at them, each of which, in my memory, has to be followed. We condition the injection wells for a specific time window. After that's done, our involvement is complete. We ask them to come back and tell us so that we can use that information exactly as we're trying to do right now with another well. So we've been following it. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember this one. If it was 94, I wasn't here. I was not a member of this board. But all of this information is important. These contamination issues are at a level of government above Shelby County. It is not municipally regulated. It is done so by the state level. Any other discussion?
One other question. There was a lot of flooding from the Loosahachie River earlier this year. And I think some of these fields and quite a lot of farm fields in Arlington were flooded. So I just wondered if the flooding has any effect on the wells when the fields flood.
No, we're gonna build our pad up above the floodplain. And we did the other one the same way.
There will be a requirement that it has to be minimum 2 feet above the floodplain wellhead. Will have to
The top of the well.
Top of the
Then
well.
that's normal.
And if you look out in the field where that particular well is now, it is 2 feet above. They do have like a pad that comes up there that assures that the water does not, any rainwater, any surface water go down in the well. So, good question.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I have a question.
Please, you're recognized.
When you use water, do you have any kind of concern for your total usage? Do you have any conservation, best management practices for the amount of water that you are using on your grass?
Well, yes, we use very little water that's actually the potential of that well. Because we don't use it in the wintertime at all. And we only use it when we don't have any rain. And when we first plant our crops, or our sod, we'll use it for about a week, and then we kind of wean it off. The less water it uses is the better, but we have to have the water there to maintain the quality for us to harvest everything. But we try to use as little water as we need to get the root system to go deeper into the ground. We don't use a lot of water. Right now we are, because we hadn't had any rain in 30 days. So I'd say I've had most of my other wells running 12 hours a day. We don't run them 24 hours a day. We turn them all off at night when we go home. I can't sleep when we're running.
And I understand why, that's okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, board or staff? Is there a motion? Motion to approve. Is there, motion approved has been made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion approved, properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Winstead, we appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And I just said what I didn't want to do, but that's okay. I'm on through. The next case. Mr. Parker, would you please call the next case?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. is item number 5 on the agenda. Another proposed Class A well at 7474 North Caryville Arlington Road, going to be used for irrigation. The product out there, Public Water Service, I believe at one time they said is available, but not sure if it is out there or not, because they told me one time it was not. I wish Clinton, somebody was here, because he was the one that told me we didn't have to relook at what they had, so. But what we have is Public Water is available out there. I believe it's going to be, is it 1,500 gallons a minute, Gary, I think? Yes, 1,500, proposed 1,500 gallons per minute water well out there for irrigation of the stock out there. It did meet all the siting criteria in 401 and 402. Public Water, and is, I believe, from a email thread from MLGW, they state that it is available out there at this point in time. I know of 11C, the design of the well was approved by the department. It looks good. There's no remediation. I don't think there's any contaminated sites out there that would affect any remediation efforts in B and C. I know Mr. Taylor can address that in just a few minutes. And we did receive an application from Gary Taylor. The appeal letter was sent to them, an appeal letter for a Class A well over 250 gallons per minute on July 9th, 2019. An appeal letter was received from Gary on July the 25th of this year. And then we have the MLGW thread that's in there on that application that was given to me on June the 20th of this year, saying water is available, and it was published in the public news on August 27th of this year to meet the 30-day requirement for this particular board meeting. And there are no wells there at this time, and I know that the question was sent to the board and to staff by Nancy asking about a well that's out there. I think that is either, I know that there were some observation wells that were installed out there at one point. And I think
This is not on the.
No, it's not on that property.
Yeah.
But it is observation well, and I believe it's used for USGS, or it was one where they sent us the coordinates, latitude and longitude, and we don't have a street address.
Yeah.
I'm still researching that, but I do know that, I did find one, didn't find that one. So we'll find the other one. So just to answer your question, Shelby, we did answer it. So.
Is the applicant present?
With that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Please step forward. Introduce yourself for the record, name, address, and help us understand why you're here.
Okay. My name is Gary Taylor. I live at 10355 Memphis Arlington Road in Lakeland, Tennessee. I own some ag land, this being one parcel, and the intention here is to irrigate this with a well roughly right in here, right in the middle, with a pivot that makes a circle around the field. It'll irrigate somewhere between 100 and 110 acres. The crops that contemplate growing are corn, cotton, and soybeans. And we'll leave it there. As part of an introduction, we've got some cost numbers. I can tell you I did a little research with UT Extension, Ag Extension. Got about the same response as we got from the USDA, and that is they don't really know. And of course, what I'm growing at the present time is all traditional ag products. Today it's not an issue as far as organic. It could be in the future. There are a number of people that are approaching me about raising organic vegetables and so forth, but at this point that is not on the table for this.
You do understand that domestic water is available? Is there a reason why you choose not to use domestic water?
It's cost.
So if you were to use domestic water, your business and use would not be viable.
Oh, I wouldn't do it. It's cost prohibitive.
All right.
I've done a little bit, I'm Trey Gaines before Well Solutions, I'm Mr. Gary's well contractor and his syndicated provider. These are some rough numbers, I've printed them off. This is what electrical use would cost. It's a 30 horsepower pump. The approximate KWs that we would use over a year's time. And then, and those are as best as I can figure off of all this information came from MW's website with their rates.
Their rate tables and such.
Right.
Yeah.
Really which rate tables to use on all of it. I use commercial rates for everything. There was no ag rate there. So these are the rates that would be for electrical use that you guys are looking at now, which is a pretty average yearly cost for most of our ag end users for syndicated use with this size system. Then I went to the water use table and used commercial rates. And if I figured this wrong, if somebody here doesn't, please point it out. Just the best that I could do. The cost is substantially more for 1 year, and it lists out the gallons used, how many CCF that would be, what that would translate into dollar-wise per year.
Can I ask for a point of clarification? Because the documentation says that water is available at 500 GPM. So I'm not sure that they have availability at your capacity, because I thought I understood you need 3 times that much. So,
Well, go ahead.
My figures are based off of their numbers of 500 gallons per minute. So if we shoot for 1,500 gallons per minute, then I would assume that these water costs would be triple.
Here's the issue. We got different crops. For example, cotton is a desert plant, requires much less water than, say, corn or soybeans. And corn, at the critical tasseling, ear setting, ear filling part of the cycle, its life cycle
Stage.
will require a ½ an inch of water a day. And that's where 1,500. So it's, if that were happening now, we fortunately missed that this year. But if we had a period of 30 days with no rain, those pivots that pivot would be running all day long. Keep that kind of water on, or just dry up and not produce it. So that's the difference. I mean, I'm not sure, I'm not an engineer.
There are a couple in the room.
Good. That's good. I don't know how big the water main is. I don't know what would happen if we sucked 1,500 gallons.
Well, my concern, and I've made this in hearings before, my concern under that situation becomes fire protection. Is that when you're drawing a large amount of water off of the domestic system, it severely depletes the available water in the event of emergency. And being a professional engineer and my requirement to place first the protection of health, safety, welfare of the public, protection of property, that's a point to me that bothers me. But again, I'm the chair, I'm neutral on this.
Well, I'm concerned about my personal safety because all my neighbors know I own a piece of ground. If they suddenly couldn't take a shower.
Oh, you might see torches. I've seen that in the movies. Just for a sunshine thing, Ms. Brandon, I'd like to recognize you. You forwarded, I think, to us some photographs. No, it's not there. Some photographs that it's up here. You know, stuck them up. There we go. These are some photographs that you sent around to the board, and I want to make them part of the record because you distributed them to the board so that the public knows. She's been kicking my shins for the past 5 minutes to get these things done, so I'm not in trouble. Is there anything you would like to add or say
Well-
about, why, I'm talking
Oh,
to
sorry.
Ms. Brandon. You went out there and made an investigation. Is there anything that you feel you need to share with the board?
Well, I just happen to drive by the property every day to and from work and home. And, for me, if I'm making a decision on something, it just helps to visualize what the property looks like. So I simply sent them around just to visualize what the property looks like. And this is unrelated. This is the well that I was curious about with Greg. That's on another property north of this application.
So that's not part of this
So this
application?
is not, that's not part of this
I have
application.
a way to take care of that.
Yeah.
Boom, okay, those are the three photographs. Anything you want to add or share with the board?
No, I just wanted to visualize what the property looks like, and, so that was it, just to get an idea of what it looks like.
Well, let me just say a couple of things. I can. We had a well permit.
Mhm.
It expired. But while the well permit was active, I had MLGW. This is an MLGW electrical panel. So I've already spent a ton of money here. $10,500 to get that done. We buried wire. You see the pivot.
Yeah, so there is a meter right there.
Yeah, I
saw that.
Well, the other picture shows there.
You're not using it.
Well, we don't have.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Excuse
yeah,
me,
that's
Mom.
what we did this when we had a well permit.
Now, I mainly took the photograph just for the number for the address. That's
Oh,
what I
okay.
was photographing, the 74,
Yeah.
74.
Yep.
So,
Chris,
Yeah.
you're right now?
One of the pictures appeared to have a pivot watering device in it. Maybe the next picture after this, is that one on site?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's just to give you a quick brief history of this project, it actually started a year and a half to 2 years ago. This pivot came from a different location. We transported it in. Our well company had sent in a well permit for Mr. Gary. This was before this process had begun. The well permit was approved, and I don't have the records. Jason and I tried to look for them, Greg, but we didn't find them. Anyway, we had a small hiccup in the plan with an RCS about some trees coming in and coming down. So it kind of got pushed aside for the time being. During all this time, the original well permit expired. Reapplied this spring at some point. Rules had changed. This process took over, so we've been, from that point to now, with all this stuff in the ground and there, working on the well permit. So that's a brief history.
Has this site been used in previous years for crop development? Is it
Yes.
something it's currently in progress, you're
Yes.
using it?
It's been in production for as long as 25 years for sure, every year. It just hadn't had irrigation.
And what's the factor driving that? Why is there now required to be irrigation previous to what was done before?
As a farmer, we're trying to help feed the world. And, corn, we just harvested the corn on that property. And you'll have around an 80 bushel per acre yield increase with irrigation versus, and that varies. I mean, a year we have a lot of
Sunshine,
rain,
weather, temperature.
How much rain? Yeah.
but it probably is going to average 50 to 60 bushels. So, we're trying. We got plenty of corn in this rural bars today. I'm not sure. There's a lot of discussion about what 2050 will bring if we're going to be able to produce enough food. So there is a fair amount of irrigation. Just here in Shelby County, but that's it. I mean, you look at the cost of the pivot, the capital cost of the pivot is about $100 are about $1,000 an acre. And your utilities and labor and all that, repairs, probably around $50 an acre. So you've got to have that yield one, to make the work financially.
Any other questions from board or staff? A member of the board would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made, properly second. Go ahead.
Chair, I have a quick question here. Before approval of this particular application, they are for our other wells that the applicant has. Fees have not been paid for those.
What? No, they haven't.
Yeah, that's according to our record. I'll look and make sure. But would you like to, if you would, amend, if somebody amend the motion? I think-
We're headed there, this is discussion. This is discussion.
I'll make sure, Gary, just to make sure. I know you did come and play last year, for a couple of years. I do know that, in fact.
I'll amend the motion that if the fees have been paid, it gets approved.
The fees, pending fees shall be brought into
Current.
status.
Yes.
Or prior to
Approval.
prior to issuance of the permit. Second, motion prayed, proper second. Any discussion? Are there any other conditions that the board would like to add to this applicant?
That he maintain fee payment, keep it current going forward.
You do that?
It's already a requirement.
Right.
I'd like to say, I don't think we can do anything in the future.
If, point of clarification, if the fees are not paid, then the health department can enforce closure of the wells. That is a thing that.
That's the mechanism.
On the annual basis.
They will be paid. My farmers pay those fees, so I have to make them.
Any other conditions, any other items? Who was second on, who's gonna claim second on the primary motion? And you have the secondary motion to amend the primary. Same, just same thing.
Just amend.
We're good.
Amended.
All right. All right, we have back, the secondary motion is approved. Primary motion comes to the floor. Any discussion, anything else y'all want to add? So the motion is to approve pending the fact that they bring their well payments, their well fees up to it, if necessary.
If necessary, if they have not already paid, and I will assure that they have.
You get to him within a week.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For that.
We'll give him some time, we'll get to,
I do it this afternoon.
if he knows that, I mean, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you ever so much for coming to visit with us. I do appreciate your candor. Okay, now going back to, Nancy, thank you for going out there and sharing this with us. I just felt it was, you could have sunshine cries and things like that. Yeah, and just agenda's down here.
I have a question regarding that.
All right.
What would be our protocol for communicating with the board, with one another, and in between our actual physical meeting here?
Well, since we are a deliberative body, I'm leaning this way for a reason. If we gather evidence and share it amongst ourselves, we do need to make that part of the record and public.
Give it to staff can send it out to the board and send it to the applicants and get it out to the public.
And specifically, when you say staff, are we talking about Mr. Parker?
Yes, it's fine, and I'll make sure everything's.
I mean, they're all a team. they're all a team, and they work closely with each other, but yeah, he's the leader of the pack. So, yeah, that's kind of where it goes. Okay, we are now to other business.
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go.
Since more of these are coming to us because we put in the change in the rules for automatic appeals,
Yes.
should we consider having an established date and time of the month that we're gonna meet? I know it's challenging for you to herd all these cats.
It is, and it depends on whether their appeals come.
And if we don't have one.
But if you will
cancel.
recall, by the end of September, I was supposed to have a report from a board member. It was going to submit some information to us. That board member's not here, but staff is. Spread these, let's pass these around. Ms. Householder has submitted to us our existing rules that we bled over so many years ago, which wasn't long enough ago. And there are some red lines in here that have been suggested. We have not, and I will say this for the record, we have not entered into rulemaking. However, this is something that I want to spread around to our board. Anybody else that wants a copy, can have a copy. This is some suggestions. These are some suggestions to give us something to think about. And it is my intent to give board members the opportunity to review this. And at our next gathering, which at the rate we're going is not going to be far from now, at our next gathering, should it be the will of the board to enter into rulemaking, we can consider these things, doing so and going into the process of rulemaking once again. In addition, once we open these rules up, they're kind of open. If there are other matters that you see or understand that you think should be reviewed, discussed, modified, I will just share with you that I'm not going to open these things up for this. However, we, in these rules, declare that we operate under Robert's Rules of Order. And just to show you how archaic those rules can be, when you wish to speak at this table, you have to stand up. You must rise, you must be acknowledged, and then you must rise to make a motion or a second. That's Robert's Rules of Order. Now, I realize there may only be a couple of engineers in this room, but those engineers are trained. Engineers follow rules. That's what engineers do. They follow rules. Rules go everything from the Constitution of the United States through the rules of professional conduct down to the policies established by their employers and standards and details and fun stuff like that. If it happens, I am going to suggest that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, which has in it a certain section for small boards and committees, which greatly relaxes the formalities of Robert's Rules. Kind of closer to the way we've been operating. And if we do that, that's going to make one pain in my side happy. We're obeying the rules. She's happy. Now that's just saying that's one thing that I might throw out at you. But I want to present this as coming from the committee that I appointed. It is a report from the committee. It contains no duties for you, but I will assign each of you to review it. Think about it, pray on it, whatever you want to meditate, whatever on that, and see if there are certain changes that I love seeing you. I love being with you. I don't want to see you every other week. I have too much other stuff that I am responsible for, and I know each of you have the same battle as I. Because guess what? We've just spent 2 hours here, and that work still has to be done if we didn't do that. It's just the reality of it. And I know somebody else would be rather punch and hold. So, with that, I beg your consideration to review this, and the next time we get together, that will appear at the bottom of the agenda. And I gave you this charge, and see if we can open up some discussion as to what y'all think. And I need you more than any of them to help clean this stuff up. You're good. Is there anything else to come before the board today? Mr. Parker, does your crystal ball tell us we need to meet in any near future? That we might need to schedule a meeting?
No, sir, not at this point in time. I mean, you can pretty much have your own schedule right now. So we don't have any other appeals coming for us at this point in time.
Well, the ordinance requires that we meet once every calendar year. I've got that checked off.
That's true. And it does say in March or something.
For the new board members, just to pass on. We've had an opinion come from the county attorney's office. There is an ordinance, an ethics ordinance with Shelby County government. It requires disclosure of potential conflicts of interest. As a new board member, you are required, asterisk, we don't have sound for that. You are required, if so, if the rules require you to do so, to complete this. And I will share with you that I do mine in November. You can go to the Shelby County Registrar's office and search Timothy J. Herndon, and you will see my disclosure recorded there for all to see for each of the years. Primarily, and you two help me out, the opinion that we received from the county attorney basically said is if you review proposals, bids, purchasing, basically buying things in your normal day-to-day job, if you specify materials, is that correct?
Specify materials, sign permits, perform site inspections and things of that nature, which pretty much cover
Most governmental.
Pretty much all pollution control. And Bob can address that if he does.
So and this is board members. This is board members.
And the groundwater quality control board members, they are required to.
Again, but the legal opinion did exempt, I think, we went through it and looked at Nancy and what Nancy's duties are, that she is not required to complete that because she doesn't specify or purchase or review bids and such, as an example. If you need clarification on that, there's your contact.
You're talking about the ethics questionnaire that we do online.
Yeah, yes, and you sign it and submit it and they record it.
Yeah.
And it's out there for all to see. And basically, it's asking questions, just so you know, did John Ford give you a gold watch? Do you have a below market loan from John Ford or Joe Ford or any? Do you have? Did Kevin Heineman do? And if so, that's fine. You simply have to disclose it. What's your source of income? What's the source of income of your spouse? things like that. And mine basically says, I work for the city of Bartlett, my wife works for Shelby County government as a teacher. I have no mortgages or loans. And then I check the box at the bottom that nothing has changed. Now Charlene has retired effective May, so I've got to revise mine this year. She now is retired. And her sources of income are retirement income from government entities. And that's all it is. So I don't want the new members to become uncomfortable. But this is part of the things you do. Also, before when we have to watch the video or whatever method is coming out for ethics training?
We'll be contacted, everybody from the board, they'll be contacted, and I'll send out the dates when you have to do it. It's usually before February the 15th of each year, that you have to have the video watched as well as have the training completed. And it's really easy, just watch it.
It's really not bad.
It's not that bad.
You gotta get a number too.
And you have a good number, and basically,
Oh, yeah, that's right. You gotta have that number.
All the board members that were on here, probably going to have you 2 new numbers, maybe 3, and that's about it. And I can do that.
And it's just when you go to the web page, it says, who are you? And the number is who you are. And then it records that you have checked off that box. It's not bad. But since you are members of this board, I just want to share that with you, that is something that's coming up. And again, in my mind, it's November, because that's when I fill out. I've got a tickler on Outlook that says, get this done, sign the statement, get it notarized, and send it to the ethics officer. And 3 months later, it's added to the registrar's office. So just sharing that information with you, because we've got a couple of newbies now. And I do want to welcome you.
You just fill it out online
Yeah, actually, it's paper because you have to sign it and have it notarized.
Okay.
And I can forward that to you. I mean, I've got mine. You may need to clean it up a little bit because it's going to have.
Mr. Shelby, you want me to send out an ethics form to everybody, blank?
Sure.
And whatever it is, as well as the time to complete it, and also the time to review the video.
That would be beneficial for everyone at this stage.
I will do that.
Since it's a chore we have to do. It's old for me, but
We've done that in the past.
yeah, let's do that sometime in the next month, before Halloween. Okay. Anything else I need to tell them, our new friends about?
No, sir, not that I can think of. I mean,
Okay, we are approaching the final item on the agenda, which is adjournment. And as far as I'm concerned, yes,
I just have one question.
go.
If it's available and possible, I would be interested in seeing some of the findings you got from the effect of public water on organic crops, because that's been a question that we've discussed, and I just would be curious.
It certainly, I think staff would be glad to pass that up too. Is that something you can do?
Yeah, it helps get it in my head too. It's stuff I don't. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one point of consideration. It used to have the staff once a year come and kind of tell us what the activity around wells were, how many new ones were installed, how many were abandoned, how many you forced closure on because we had some bad actors or whatever. So we kind of had a feel for the activity in the county. So I would like to suggest that, I don't know, in the January meeting or something, that you give us.
Hang on just a second, because I've got a real good friend that's really, really smart. Mr. Barker?
That's right. Well, in the past, here, what we've done on that was where we had sites where where the Groundwater Quality Control Board had approved injection wells. We've done an update on 7 to 10 sites per year that we've done that. So far, we've not had that many come in. But if it is the, I guess the.
Will of the board.
Will of the board, I can get all that information together. Because I already have to get together anyway, the Groundwater's already found that.
Like a year review, like a year
Yeah,
review.
I don't think I've seen them since the 90s. We used to have them
You want
back
it in
then.
January 1 through December 31st?
Calendar year.
Okay, calendar year.
Don't hear about some air stuff, we'll fill it in too.
I do, but I won't be in heat about it.
Well,
We got enough for lunch, we just.
We've got another board that we have to deal with on that one.
I suggest what we do is we give them a hint that that's coming. And since we want it calendar, we've got a few more months. But by the time they get all that gathered, football season will be over. Which reminds me that I think there's a football game today.
Actually, we'll have that information available by the 5th of January.
So the first meeting we have after that, we will look to that be coming in. I really don't want to call a meeting to do that unless, I'd like to do that with other business. Because I know you all have guests.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Just one more question. Is Jack Carmichael or someone from the USGS gonna come to the board sometime in the future and give us a presentation on their latest groundwater research?
Well, I think we have someone here today from that organization.
By USGS, but
No, I've got you. Because what you described sounded more like your magic.
Yeah, I mean,
He's got a presentation.
yeah, I mean, if you guys want us to do a presentation, talk with, we do have contract obligations to speak with MLGW first before we talk to anybody else, but, yes.
Hint, hint. Got it.
Do you want that in January?
At this point, I really don't want to drag these people away from work. I don't want to drag me away from work. I've got a lot of people chewing on parts of me right now. But regardless of the fact there's a football game today, and the next time we end up having a meeting to get together, I don't want to bring them in just to hear that, unless we have to have it for our annual requirement, our one hearing per year. But yeah, if you hear that we're going to get together, yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
Didn't Jack at the last meeting say he was coming back to tell us something? I don't remember what he was gonna tell us, but he was gonna tell us something.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Who's going to give an update, but Jack's not here.
He's gonna get updated at a future board meeting, one where we did not have, where the board had no appeals. He's gonna give an update about their presence here in Shelby County and maybe some more areas in North Mississippi, to give an update about water quality.
Well, we might do that after some appeals. So I've got a feeling we're going to have more. Or if we're in rulemaking, if that's the decision of the will of this board. We can certainly bring them in if that went in the same thing there, if we go into that dark hole. Is there anything else? It's now 3:30. Kickoff is 7?
Talking about soccer.
No, I'm not football. No, we're not talking about football. We're talking about football.
Football, Americana.
Yeah, there are people in Tiger Lane waiting for some of us. Yes.
Just to let y'all know, since I'm new to the board, I've been reviewing all the contracts and ordinances that I've created the board, and I've noticed a couple of things that maybe have not been done, that probably need to get done, and I'll probably just give y'all a heads up that some things might be coming, requests from the board. I believe there is a comprehensive groundwater protection plan that needs to be in place that I have not seen. I've seen smaller plans that would make up portions of a comprehensive groundwater protection plan, but I have not seen one from this board. So
Well,
that's kind of
do understand, this board has no budget. This board has no budget. The only source of activity like that is staff.
Right.
So if you would like to work with Ms. Householder and If you feel that needs to be done and have staff assemble something like that and bring that to the board for consideration, that'd be wonderful.
Is that the board directing staff to do the plan?
No, this is, you need to talk to Ms. Householder and explain to her that duty. And that she can either provide funding for this board to have that done outside of house, or she can have that done by staff. We have absolutely no budget,
I don't.
nor do we have, most likely, amongst board members, we don't have the expertise.
I think typically, the request comes from the board of staff to conduct a plan or conduct research to, get started on plan. So that's why I bring it up before the board.
Please work through county government, communicate your concern, and we will see how that comes.
Okay.
I know what's gonna happen, but,
I'm reading
I understand.
the ordinance, and the ordinance says that the board needs to, direct the director, to do things. So that's where that was coming from.
and the director is a board member, she just doesn't happen to be here today, which would greatly help things. But the things what they are. She's not here for me to direct. What else you got? That's it for today. I thank you for your expertise and advice.
Thank you.
Anything else, board member, staff? Next item is adjournment. We are adjourned.